Welcome in, everybody, to Catfish on Ice, episode 262, Four Nations Face-Off Madness is what we're calling this episode. We had to jump in on a Sunday night to talk about what has been an epic Four Nations Face-Off. This is your host, Chad Mitten, with co-host Max Greenberg. What's up, Max? How you doing, man? You ready to talk about?
I'm so ready.
Dude,
I am like the game last night.
Yes, I mean, I got Abe Lincoln with the sunglasses on there, but all the same. But I'm like still buzzing about it. Like when I woke up, it sounds so nerdy, but when I woke up this morning, I almost felt like I dreamt it. And I know that sounds corny, but I mean, that was like, and all these new people are starting to come in and be like, "Oh my God, is this what hockey is?" I mean, all these like random people who don't watch hockey, which that's okay, understood. You chose to watch the NBA skills competition over this. I mean, I'm not going to judge you. But I mean, the amount of new fans that the NHL probably just built off last night's USA versus Canada brawl that we watched, literal brawl.
Yeah.
3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
Insane.
But first of all, Max, how's your weekend going besides that? We're going to break down the game, but how you doing, man?
Doing good. I mean, that was a good part of my weekend, which was awesome. No, it's been a good weekend so far. And I don't work tomorrow either because it's President's Day. So this is like Saturday night for me, essentially.
It's President's Day, right? And so we've got an epic, I mean, the 3-2-1 point system.
I love it.
I mean,
NHL, implement that. Well, not now because you're in the middle of the season, but starting 2025-26 season, implement that.
You've got 4 teams. Well, USA's already in the championship round, but you've got 3 teams who all have something to play for tomorrow. And not only do they have something to play for, but they got to do it in the right way.
Right. That's so much better.
I mean, all of the emphasis is on winning in regulation tomorrow. I mean, the numbers are spinning in my head, but I think I have this right, Max. If Canada and Finland play first. If Canada wins in regulation, it's done, it's over. We got the rematch. But if somehow Finland pulls off the upset in any fashion, then we're all going to be turned onto USA and Sweden. And can Sweden go out and beat the Americans in regulation to make the championship? Because you get 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for an overtime win. So let's say Finland wins in overtime over Canada. Sweden can then win in regulation over the Americans and still leapfrog both Canada and Finland. There's so many scenarios that we got to work out.
What's going to be interesting is not only is USA clinched, so they may, who knows how they play. Matthew Tkachuk is probably not going to play tomorrow night because
I actually think it's official that he's not playing.
Is it official? I didn't see if it was official.
I'm pretty sure they're going to rest him.
No, I mean, why would he play? So that's just that much more of an advantage for Sweden.
And I also saw that apparently it's not anything serious. He said it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But so we're going to break it down. We also got to tie in some Preds news with all of this. Of course, Philip Forsberg and Gus Nyquist have been playing for Sweden, and neither one have registered a point in the series, but at the same time, only 2 games have been played. But Sweden has come to play. I thought they were a sneaky underdog. I'm really interested to see how they show up against a USA team that's already got their fate set. They're coming off an emotional win, and they have essentially nothing to play for other than pride, obviously, which is a big part of this, by the way. So let's not. Yeah. I know Team USA is going to come out wanting the win. They're not going to just sit back and rest here. This is all about playing for your country. So I expect the Americans to play like it's desperation. But at the same time, Sweden, I could see them beating USA tomorrow. I really could. Not just because USA might take them lightly, or I don't think anything. I think Sweden's got some sneaky skill to them, and they could pull off the upset here. My biggest focus is definitely going to be on Finland and Canada. And of course, Jordan Binnington is under all of this heat right now from the Canadian fans about why did we go with this guy? Like, How about we talk about the fact that you've got Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, and all those other guys on the same team, and you manage one goal against the Americans.
I also hate Jordan Binnington, so I'm here for that.
But, I mean, come on now. First of all, we are presented by DraftKings, promo code THPN. Please hit subscribe below on YouTube or follow on Facebook. We'd really appreciate that. And leave us a comment in the stream and join the live stream as we do this Four Nations Face-Off recap, reaction episode. But let's open it up with this. Let's first talk about so many good quotes coming out of this. And the first thing I'm going to put on the screen for all the viewers is this quote. I want to actually first put the this is from Matt Porter, I think, of the Boston Globe. He put this quote out, and I want to put it on the screen for everyone to read. This came from the game last night. It's a quote from one of the players, and we'll put it on the screen here. And it's just so perfect. This came from a Jacob Slavin of United States. And let me get that off. Let me put it on the screen there. Lady Bing winner wasn't in the group chat, was the quote. On not knowing about the opening fights in USA versus Canada. That's via Matt Porter. That's a good one. That's hilarious, right? Because then let's go ahead and put the definition of the Lady Bing trophy, because it just makes it all the more hilarious for everyone. Because the NHL Lady Bing Memorial Trophy is awarded annually to the player who best exemplifies sportsmanship, gentlemanly conduct, and a high standard of play. I mean, I don't think
the high standard of play might have been there,
but I don't think we necessarily saw that in the first 9 seconds.
You certainly didn't see the sportsmanship or gentlemanly conduct, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, first 9 seconds. I mean, you're seeing all this out there about the fact that apparently this was organic. It just happened. No one really saw it coming. You saw these. You had some of the players were mic'd up, and did you see, Max, where Brady Tkachuk and the referee were talking about it?
I didn't actually see that. No.
Oh, it's hilarious. So after the fights had happened, and it was between whistles, and Brady's like basically saying like, "Oh man, that was so amazing," and then the refs like, let's throw some F-bombs in there, but the refs basically like, "Oh my God, that was effing amazing." Like, it was just like,
you love it.
I mean, just inject this directly into my veins, basically, if you're a hockey fan. But we're going to get into the game itself and how that worked out, because Max, the Americans, they put on a defensive clinic. I mean,
both teams really had problems.
Both teams did. I don't want to take any credit away from Canada either. Both teams played very disciplined defensive games. There was not a lot of shots to be had. There wasn't a lot of high danger chances to be had.
There's really not a lot of high danger chances at all in this tournament.
That's why when Dylan Larkin broke out for that go-ahead goal in the midway second period, I mean, that it was like a huge exhale, because when it was 1-1, when I was watching, I was just waiting for Canada to erupt for like 2 or 3 goals, like bam, 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 because that's what Canada can do with all that firepower, is they can just pounce on you. I was just sitting on the edge, like, we got to get some goals here. Like, I'm thinking Team USA, we got to get this next goal. I know that sounds really dramatic, but I was thinking Team USA has to get this next goal to make it 2-1, just psychologically speaking, because something tells me Canada is a sleeping giant, and they're about to. And with that, in Montreal, that atmosphere.
Oh my God!
If Canada would have taken that, because they scored the first goal. I mean, Connor McDavid gets the first goal. I mean, can you write the script any better if you're Canada? That McJesus gets the goal to put you up 1-0 after 3 fights in the first 9 minutes. And let's circle back and talk about the fights. Let's go in chronological order here. And Max, how about you really give us your initial thoughts in the moment? 2 seconds in, and it's Matthew Tkachuk versus Brandon Hagel. So we got Florida on Florida crime here. We got member of the Panthers, member of the Lightning, but a good scrap. I thought it was a pretty even scrap. I'll give the slight edge to Matthew Tkachuk but I thought it was a really solid toss up 50-50 scrap. The first one.
No, like I mean, when the first one happened, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're going to be in for kind of game. I'm like, okay, this is a good tone setter. And I saw a second one. I'm like, oh, and this is happening again. Then, of course, it was another Tkachuk brother. So I thought, okay, maybe it's going to calm down to this. Then I saw another one. I'm like, oh, I have no idea what we're even in for. And let me also say one more thing. It would have been funny if like the order of the Tkachuk brothers fighting would have been flipped, because the second one, I believe, Sam Bennett fought. So imagine if Matthew Tkachuk fought Sam Bennett.
Yeah. And Sam Bennett's not a fighter.
He's physical, so he's not like, he wouldn't be resistant to it, but like maybe he's not like a fighter.
Yeah. But that Brady, out of the 3 fights, Brady Tkachuk definitely was the overwhelming winner in terms of his bouts. I mean, he pretty much made quick business of Sam Bennett. No offense to Bennett, but that one was. And then, of course, the third fight, 9 seconds in, they play for 6 seconds. They get in on the goalie on Bennington. There's a little bit of ice kicked up there. Guys don't like when you skate in on their goalie. I don't know exactly what caused it, but JT Miller, who is way undersized, but give him credit for at least stepping up, goes after Colton Parayko. And I got to give Parayko the win there. Miller was trying to lay the uppercuts and the haymakers, but he was missing. He was swinging and missing. But yeah, 3 fights in 9 seconds, and then Canada scores the first goal with McDavid scoring it. Your national hero. I mean, it was set up for Canada to maybe run the USA out of the building there for a second. The way everything started, and they settled down. They play a really strong defensive game, and just, I mean, I got nothing else. I mean, I kept waiting for Canada to just bust out and get like 2 or 3 goals really quick, and it just never happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, both teams were really disciplined. Also, I think it kind of shows you the difference. I think the advantage in net for the U.S. definitely was on display, because like that first goal, Jordan, obviously the goal Connor Hellebuyck gave up, he had no chance on with Connor McDavid. The first goal that Jake Gensel scored, I thought was a soft goal. Second one was not so soft, but you probably could. It was stoppable, I would say. So I think that Canada definitely felt the disadvantage in goal in this game.
Oh, for sure. And we kind of saw that going into the tournament as well. I mean, I think we stacked up all the rosters on this podcast a couple episodes ago, and that was one of the things that everyone kind of had circled was, if Canada's got one weakness in this tournament, it's definitely goaltending. Right. But the overwhelming thought was they've got plenty of firepower
forwards and defensemen
to overcome the what might be a little lacking in goaltending. So the fact that, I mean, look, Bennington's getting a lot of heat today. He's catching a lot of heat. But again, I'll circle back to it. And maybe you always call me a goaltender apologist, because Preds fans always accuse me of standing up for Juuse Saros way too much. You can say that I'm maybe sympathetic to goalies too much. I'll say that's fair. But I'm not saying that Bennington is the strength of this team or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, by the way, we're going to talk about this. I put it on the screen. But I don't think it's necessarily Bennington that's your problem. The fact that you only managed 1 goal with all of that talent, there was a lot of too much passing and not enough shooting from Canada. I mean, put the puck on the net, get in the high danger areas, and make chaos happen. You're never going to beat a world-class goalie, the best goalie in the world right now, Connor Hellebuyck, by getting too fancy, I mean, we're Preds fans, Max. We see this on the daily. Getting too cute, getting too fancy. It's definitely not going to work against the USA defense and the way this team is disciplined. And to Canada's credit, they played a disciplined defensive effort as well. But, I mean, you've got some of the best players in the world on your team. You're stacked with offensive talent. Why are you not forcing the issue more? I thought Canada left a lot out there, And I don't think it's just about their goaltending. I think, and I feel really sorry for Finland because I think Canada's about to erupt like a volcano.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling for Finland. I would love to see, not because I have hate for Canada. It's not about that. It's just I love a good underdog story. That's in any sport I watch. And Finland is such a heavy underdog. The fact that they managed the 4-3 overtime win over Sweden,
it was gritty.
That gets lost. This past set, I mean, we're so focused. The casual fan that's not a big hockey fan, but they're all about this. We should point to that. We should direct them to the other games that have happened in this tournament that have equally been just as entertaining. Finland and Sweden, which probably didn't get a ton of fanfare outside of the diehard hockey fans. I was interested in it. I was excited about it. That was the appetizer on Saturday. That game went to overtime. Mikael Granlund, former Predator, got the game-winning goal. So good on Finland for figuring out a way to get that win. Sweden gets it, figures. So you got a 3-way tie behind USA with 2 points right now, which sets up for an epic Monday to finalize the round robin portion of it to set up who is going to face USA, Max. I mean, can you ask for anything more if you're the NHL? You can't.
This is
perfect.
Insane. It's insane. And they struck gold with this, literally. I mean, this was one of the best ideas they've had in a long time. And you can see it on the screen, 4.4 million. One of the biggest. Of course, that's not going to overtake like the NFL or anything like that.
Of course not.
But I mean, for hockey, it's been a massive success.
That rivals. Hey, that rivals a lot of NBA numbers. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, this was and again, NHL just struck gold with this. Absolutely.
So this tweet here that we've got on the screen for our YouTube and Facebook viewers is from Greg Wyshynski of ESPN. And he says, thank you to Chucks. That's his post. But in the graphic, you've got the early ratings, Nielsen ratings. And I was really like interested to see what these ratings were going to be going into the tournament. I really was. So when I saw this, I was just like, oh, I can't wait to see what this number is going to be. And I was thinking like, this goes to show you how conservative I was being about this. Like I thought that if the NHL drew between 1 and 1.5 million viewers, you could call that at least a stepping stone is how I was looking at it. I could have never imagined 4.4 million viewers, peak 5.2 million viewers for USA Canada, up 473% versus ESPN's World Cup of Hockey, USA versus Canada in 2016, up 369% versus NHL and ABC's average this season, so over triple the amount of viewership, and the most viewed non-Stanley Cup final hockey telecast since 2019. It felt like a Stanley Cup final, I'll tell you that.
I mean, He's earned a lot of this, and he's caught a lot of crap over the years, stuff he's done. But Gary Bettman, hats off for this one. This was a good choice.
Call it how you see it, and you give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
But Max, I want to ask you about this because you've been floating this idea around about. There's no arguing against it. This is way better than the All-Star game right now. I mean, every sport's dealing with this right now. The staleness of all-star games. It's not just I always ask myself which sport has the most exciting all-star game, and I can't answer it because I don't think any of them are any good anymore.
Right.
So like, I mean, I know that there's an argument to be had, and I think this is the side you're going to take because we've already talked about this, or in private we've talked about this, that you don't want it every year because you don't want to ruin the freshness of it. You want it to be kind of like, you want to have it feel kind of like the Olympics or the World Cup. So expand on that, Max.
Yeah, exactly. My point with that, and the parallel I really had to this was the Winter Classic. When the Winter Classic, first started becoming a thing in the NHL and Stadium Series games, everyone was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Outdoor hockey. Like, this is what the sport's all about. But the more and more and more years that you've gone, you realize that that kind of thing is not, it's not, the uniqueness is just gone from the Winter Classic. And maybe people feel differently than me because they're not football fans like I am. But like, for example, on New Year's Eve, whenever like you see the Winter Classic going on, which is a regular season game, versus like the college football playoff, I'm watching the college football playoff pretty much every time. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is, because those games are objectively way, way, way more important to their sports. But maybe you're kind of getting in the weeds there. But the point is, if the Winter Classic was one thing that was just so rare and like that didn't happen very often, I'd be much more inclined to watch Winter Classic. But because I know it happens every year, I've seen the same thing every time. It's like, yeah, it's every year that it could happen. And, and I'll have the next, Stadium Series game and whatnot. And as far as this kind of thing goes, like, of course, players are so passionate about representing their country. And, the fans are passionate about watching and all that too. But if it becomes an every year thing, it's going to be like, we've kind of seen this before, what's really new. And, of course, you'll be Olympics every 4 years, but not the Olympics don't happen. I mean, I guess players don't go to the Olympics all the time, but, and maybe depending on how often the players do go to the Olympics, you could potentially fit this tournament in from time to time. But I think if it were every year, it'd be a thing where it just wouldn't, the uniqueness wouldn't be the same. And
so I'm right there with you, but here's how I want to tweak that or add a little extra to it. I think every other year would be cool to start off. But I think you could actually make this carry on into future years to make it even have a bigger impact. So if you could get more countries involved possibly in the future, you could do like the top 2 teams in that year's 4 nations advance to the next round or the next year's version. And then you leave 2 open slots for 2 new nations to get in on it next time. Like you could like make it to where you could offer other nations to get in, because I love the 4 nations product. I think it gives some exclusivity to it. It's like you've got 4 nations in this. Like we know there's way more than 4 nations of great hockey, right? But you've got these 4. It makes it feel exclusive. So if you could keep this going into the distant future, you can just, because obviously the NHL is going to want to bring this back at some point based on how successful it is right now. Right. But I think it would be cool to figure out a way to get more nations involved down the road and make this like an ongoing thing, where kind of like how the World Cup works, where you qualify, like you play to make your way in. I think that you could do it to where like if the top 2 teams advance to the next time, they're in it next time, but then you leave 2 open slots for 2 other nations to get in next time. In some way, whether they bid for it, whether the NHL just handpick some, whatever you want to do. I think that'd be really cool. And it would just keep more intrigue. It would give you a World Cup feel.
Yeah, I know. I think there's definitely ways to modify it and stuff. And maybe with what you said, that could end up working. But I think ultimately, the big message here is, if you're the NHL, you're going to want to very much toe that fine line for, making it, making sure you're taking advantage of, something like this happening often enough, but making sure it's happening too often where it kind of loses its luster.
And then we also have to just address the elephant in the room. We're not going to get into the politics of it, but the political undertones, we would be lying to you if we said it didn't have any impact on the passion and the interest and I'm not saying the players necessarily were dropping the gloves because of politics. I think that this would have been a very highly intense matchup, no matter what the politics are, because it's hockey and it's Canada versus USA. So I'm not suggesting that at all.
And
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say also, these guys have not, if I did my math and I remember correctly, these guys have not had the chance to represent their countries in this capacity since the 2014 Olympics.
Yeah.
11 years.
We've had a break from the Olympics. And also, this is the first time USA has beaten Canada best on best rosters since the 2010 Olympics.
Yeah.
So you got to go way back. So, this has been but what I wanted to say is from the outsider perspective, a lot of casuals out there, a lot of people who probably don't watch hockey very often, but they're sports fans or whatever. but I'm not bashing these people, but they had more interest in this game with all the political drama that's going on in our world right now. And again, not going to get into that stuff. If you're not living in a cave, you know what we're referring to. But that definitely made it also more dramatic, more interesting to even the most casual sports fan. Maybe even someone who doesn't watch sports very often. Like we always think like the Super Bowl. People watch the Super Bowl and they're not even football fans. They're just like, oh, it's the Super Bowl. We got to watch it. I suspect there were, out of that 4.4 million viewers, there was a decent, not trying to take the wind out of the sails from the NHL and saying, oh, this is why people watch. I'm not saying that. But I guarantee you there was a decent chunk of people who watched that game because they're like, ooh, it's USA Canada with all this drama going on right now. Ooh, I want to watch this. Yeah. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's the way it is. But I was into it just because it's USA Canada and it's a great rivalry.
Yep.
And USA has definitely stepped up their game nationally speaking when it comes to hockey. And I know the most diehard Canadian knows that. USA's here. Tons of great American-born players. But let me just say this. We're all throwing our pom-poms up. We're all excited. We're all like hugging each other like it's like we just upset the Soviet Union back in the 80s or something. Right. But let's just keep it all in perspective here. It's very, very, very likely that Canada is going to have a rematch for all the marbles. And this is all going to come crashing down for us if we don't keep it in perspective here and realize. But hey, it's back in Boston, so that's good at least.
Yeah.
And of course, the anthem was booed. And I do want to give my thoughts on that. And Max, I want to get your thoughts as well. But let me give my thoughts first. The whole booing the national anthem thing, I think it's trashy no matter where it comes from and no matter what country's national anthem it is. I just think it's trashy. I really hope, I'm probably hoping against hope, and it's not going to happen. But I really hope that Americans don't boo the Canadian national anthem if they end up playing Canada for a rematch in Boston. I really hope, and I don't like seeing this. It's just you can have all the blood, sweat, and tears, but when the puck drops, and I love the fights, I love the passion, I love the leaving it all out there, but don't disrespect someone else's national anthem. I just think it's ridiculous. I know. I mean, you're booing things that have nothing to do with a lot of Americans. And I would say the same thing if you boo the Canadian national anthem. I think I would never in a million years think about booing the Canadian national anthem. Anytime I go to a hockey game, I get chills down my spine whenever I get to hear the Canadian national anthem. And I see other Canadians around me who are proud of hearing their national anthem. I think it's a beautiful thing that should be respected and that might sound like a wimpy thing to say and stuff, but that's just how I feel about it. I think you should always show respect to the other country's national anthem, whether it's the World Cup, whether it's the Olympics. This has an Olympics feel to me. And I just think it's low class, no matter who it comes from. Let's all do better here. So I'm hoping the Americans don't boo the Canadian national anthem. If it's apparently already happening, but I don't like it at all.
Yeah, me personally, the way I see it, it's at the end of the day, it's freedom of speech, so you really can't get mad at anyone who does it. I personally would never do it to USA, Canada, Sweden, Finland, whoever. And in a perfect world, I'd hope no one would do it, but people are going to do what they want. So it is as far as I'm concerned.
I'm definitely pro freedom of speech. You can do what you want. I'm telling you how I feel about it. Like, I can agree that you have the freedom of speech to do it. That doesn't mean that I think it's
right
classy in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, that's just part of it. People get fired up about this. People get passionate, and some of them are booing because they're in it because of the rivalry. Some people are booing because of things that don't even have to do with hockey. And that's what really drives me crazy is you're booing the anthem based on dumb political shit that I could give two shits about. Sorry for my cussing, but in that moment, I'm going to say it because it's a sport. These guys are playing. They're leaving it all out there. Leave the politics for all the people who want to do politics. In the end, it's a national anthem. Show respect. That's how I feel about it. let's get into DraftKings real quick and tell you about our current offer. And then we're also going to tell you about, we're going to talk about some Predator stuff that has to do with all this. Mainly Juuse Saros. His struggles have carried over into the Four Nations face-off, unfortunately. And we're going to get into that here in a second. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the current DraftKings offer right now. And right now, DraftKings is got a great offer going right now for hockey, for the NHL, with bonus bets and all of that good stuff. And so let's tell you about that. And currently right now, $150 in bonus bets are up for grabs. When you bet just $5 on the NHL, you can bet on anything, including just something simple like who do you pick to win. And that is just something that is really simple for new users. So right now, that's what you want to look for is the hockey offer right now. So the NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. So the Preds are back in action on February 22nd. So that'll be when the NHL action gets back underway. It's super easy for the first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up, new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. NHL and NHL team marks are the property of the NHL and its teams. NHL 2025, all rights reserved. All right, so Max, let's get into Finland. I didn't know what they were going to do for their third game because, as we unfortunately know, Juuse Saros started the first game for Finland against the United States, gave up 6 goals on, I believe, 32 shots, if I remember correctly. Started off the game pretty strong.
Yeah.
And then everything caved in on him. So, Max, if it were you and you were deciding between Kevin Lankinen and Juuse Saros to start a make-or-break game against Canada, no less, would you go Lankinen or would you go Saros? Yeah,
tough thing.
Very tough.
Yeah, because I feel like, I'm certainly. Admittedly, I'm certainly fighting some bias here for sure. Let me kind of break down the situation deeper.
Yeah,
and I don't mean to, I don't mean to get on to my fellow Preds fans or anything here. A big theme of what I'm seeing on Twitter, and granted, there's definitely, this isn't totally wrong by any means. Pretty much the overwhelming consensus of things I see, at least from Preds Twitter, is Finland, just like the Preds, giving Juuse Saros no help, blah, blah, blah. Juuse Saros, I know, did not have great help in that game against USA. For as much as many goals he gave up, Finland was still under siege most of the game. But it's okay to admit Saros is struggling right now. Something's not right with him. When you look at it, and the goals he gave up, of course, he gave up 6 goals on like 32 shots, whatever it was. That's really bad. And when you look at the goals he gave up, the first 2 goals I don't think were really on him. Third one was deflected, though was still pretty far out. You'd like for him to stop that, although I would come some slack there. That 4th goal they gave up, he should have stopped that. That was a fairly soft goal. Goals 5 and 6, not so much. But again, he's not getting the help he would want to get. he's not picking up the slack you want to pick up. But going into the second game, Finland against Sweden, Kevin Lankinen really didn't play all that well either. I mean,
against nothing against Sweden, but a little bit of an easier matchup too.
Yeah, he only gave 3 goals, but like the amount, I'm pretty sure like their save percentage. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong saying
I got it pulled up right here.
Yeah, I imagine their save percentages weren't that far off from each other. So, and again, it's one of those.
So Lankinen faced 24 shots against Sweden, made 21 saves, a .875 save percentage. So it's not like he just lit the world on fire and he was the reason why, Finland was able to win. No, Finland won because they got goal support and they dug deep and found some offense. I mean, you get a goal from Mikko Rantanen, their best player on that Finnish team. You get a goal from Barkov. I mean, Finland's got some. It's not like they're a scrubs. I mean, all 4 of these teams have the NHL's best. But when you unfortunately are in an all-star like tournament as we're in, you're the NHL's best of the best. Even a team like Finland, which on paper looks like a really quality team, yeah, they're the heavy underdogs. That's just how quality and how stacked this tournament is. But then Mikael Granlund gets the game winner. Oli Mata gets a goal, or no, that was an assist. Sorry. But yeah, like you get goal support. I mean, Finland only scored 1 goal in Saros' start. So again, Saros is just like snake bitten when it comes to getting goal support.
Yeah. Personally, if you ask me, because I didn't think, and maybe the second goal was played as well, I didn't think the goals that Lankinen gave up were like that, that were absolutely goals that like maybe one of them was, but I didn't think they were goals that absolutely could never be stopped. So I don't think either goaltender played that well. Honestly, I'm trying to leave bias aside as much as possible. I would go back to Saros for the third game tomorrow because you came in expecting to start for you. He got pulled, but did Lankinen, maybe he was a little better, but did he play so well that you absolutely have to keep him in goal? He didn't really. So I personally would go back to Saros.
I'm admittedly a little shocked that Saros is not coming back for this game. I thought that they were going to go back to Saros. I really did. But I guess they want to stick with. I guess they don't want to do the flip flop. They don't want to go back and forth. They'd rather just stick with Lankinen and move forward with Lankinen. And I think maybe it's just. I guess they're worried about Saros' confidence, and they don't want to throw him in against Canada of all. I mean, that's just ridiculous to even think about that. But here's another thing. I don't think it's the last that we might see of Saros. If Lankinen gives up a couple quick goals tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say Lankinen gives up a couple goals in the first period. I could see Saros being put in.
Yeah, 100%.
And then let's say Finland falls behind 2 goals quick in the first period. They put Saros in, and Saros steps up in relief and holds Canada at bay, and Finland can chip away, score a goal or 2, and make it interesting. I think that's Saros' only chance to kind of rectify this and reverse the bad juju that he's got going right now. That would be your best case scenario is he could maybe come in relief. I mean, obviously, if you're Finland, you don't want that to happen at all. You'd rather Lankinen just go in there and just put a stone wall up, which Lankinen is very capable of doing. We know as Preds fans that Lankinen is a perfectly capable goalie. In fact, the last year of Lankinen and Saros together, they had almost identical numbers. So Lankinen's a good goalie.
Albeit Lankinen in far fewer games.
Far fewer games. He was still a backup role. But Lankinen also played on the road a lot.
Right.
In Nashville. He was like the road starter all the time. So anyway, but yeah, I was surprised to see Saros get benched for this game. But you give up 6 goals. You can't make any excuses when you give up 6 goals. You can say the defense hung him out to dry. 6 goals is 6 goals.
They weren't all like unstoppable. They weren't like all like crazy like chances anyway. Saros should have had a few of those.
Yeah. So tough stuff. And then of course Forsberg and Nyquist are playing for Sweden, so we'll get to see them play one more game against USA tomorrow. I would love to see Forsberg get a goal in this tournament. He's had some shots on goal. He's looked pretty good out there. I thought he's been engaged. But it's just he hasn't been able to crack the score sheet. But as Max said earlier, this tournament's been a defensive tournament for the most part.
And it's all what makes it so tough to judge these players. And I've heard them harp on this a million times, maybe overboard, but it's true on these broadcasts. They talk about this tournament. It's only 4 games at most. This tournament's over before it even begins. So there's not really the opportunity to really get in the rhythm or anything. That's
a good point.
These teams, and not the only teams that get to the 4th game, are the ones who play. It's USA and then the other team who makes it.
Well, I think
3 games is not really enough to get a rhythm going. It's just not.
Very true. And I think we're forgetting the fact that this is still a glorified exhibition.
Yeah, it is.
It's still a even though it doesn't. Again, kudos to the NHL because they've turned an all-star game or an all-star weekend into something that matters. Normally we watch. Let's think all-star game for the NHL in recent years. It's the 3-on-3 tournament against the division versus division or whatever. And it's hard to get pumped up about that. Like, oh yeah, we're Team Central because the Preds are in the Central Division. So let's rep the Central Division.
For all my other rivals, no thanks.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, in past years, I watched the all-star skills competition because sometimes they are kind of cool, but really fans watch it just to watch their own players. So, like, if you have a certain player on your favorite team who's in a certain skills competition, you might tune in to see how your favorite player does in that random skills competition. Or you might watch, the Central Division squad go up just because you want to see how your individual favorite player is going to do. But you're not getting into it like, oh, yeah, this is all about Team Central. We got to win this for the division. It's our division. Like, no, there's none of that. There's none of that. So that's why this doesn't feel like an exhibition, even though it is.
No, this feels like legit playoff style hockey.
It feels like it means something, because it does, because people get loyal to their countries. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Max, when it comes to it's tough to build the chemistry. It is over before it starts, really. Yeah. And again, though, I will not be surprised at all if Sweden figures out a way to beat United States tomorrow. Yeah. And if they can win in regulation, then Canada has to win in regulation. Well, I guess they play before, so the timing of it. But yeah, I mean, running all the scenarios in my head is hard to do.
Right.
But real quick, all right. So let's shift to the Preds a little bit here before we get out of here, and let's talk about some players that are really going to be under the microscope coming out of the Four Nations break for different reasons, not just because of the trade deadline. Of course, Gus Nyquist is going to be under the microscope because we want to see how quickly he gets traded, and also does he up his level of play to maybe boost his trade value a little bit. But I'm going to want to see where he's placed in the lineup and just how he looks, because it's got to be weighing on him, Max, that he knows he's going to be on a new team in a few weeks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It could be weighing on him that he doesn't even know if he'll go back to Nashville by the time this tournament's over. He probably will be. You don't know.
Yeah. And he's a classy veteran. He's 35 years old. Nashville's not his first stop. He's bounced around a little bit, but I mean, it's got to be tough not knowing what your future holds in the next couple of weeks. You don't know if you're going to land on a playoff team. I'm sure he's hoping he lands on a playoff team, which I would expect he does. Anyone who trades for him is probably in the playoff hunt. But another player that I'm really going to be focused on for a very different reason, opposite end of the spectrum, is Joakim Kimmel. I mean, if we need a reason to really be excited about watching the Preds down the stretch, it's Joakim Kimmel. I mean, he's aggressive in it. He's been aggressive in his first couple games. He's putting shots on goal. He's going to start building that confidence. I'm hoping they keep him in the lineup for the rest of the year. You got nothing to lose. Keep him up there. Let him build the confidence. There's really no pressure that Kimmel should be feeling personally. I mean, it's not like they're calling him up to put the team on his back and carry him to the playoffs. No, he can come out there. He can play loose. He can play free. He can try to, play aggressive, use his natural skills that he already possesses. So I'm going to be excited to watch Kimmel and see how he grows and see if he can start put some light the lamp a couple times and see what we got in him going into next season.
Yeah, no, I mean, and a lot of these young guys who are going to be, me watching them closely to see if they perform. Guys like him, Svechkov. I hope even Ozzy Weisblatt gets time. Guys like Justin Barron, Nick Blankenberg, Adam Willsby, all those young guys. They're going to be watched. Because at this point in the year, we're finding a lot of playoffs are out of the picture, so we're finding out. What do we have in the future? So yeah.
We got a good discussion here talking about the four nations in the future and if it's the same as the Olympics when it comes to banning Russia. I mean, again, politics aside, we would all love to see Russia, the hockey nation, back in these tournaments because Russia is one of the great hockey countries along with Canada and the United States. And it'd be cool if we could settle all the international stuff that's going on in this world right now. In a perfect world, it would be awesome to see Russia back in these international tournaments. It'd be really cool. And, of course, first and foremost, you pray for peace. You pray for the end of wars and all that stuff. And if we can eventually reach that at one point and all the wars stop and maybe Russia is allowed to compete in international play again, Russia in the four nations would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sign me up for that, please.
Yeah. No, they're definitely one of the top. Besides the four nations that are there and Russia, those are easily the top 5 premier hockey nations.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So So let's see who else is on my spotlight. Ryan O'Reilly. And
interesting one to see. Because we don't know his future in the team is kind of in limbo. So.
And my thing about Ryan O'Reilly is the more I hear about how loyal he is to this franchise, he's acting like a true captain. I mean, I know Roman Yossi's our captain, but we've basically got 2 captains because Ryan O'Reilly, if Roman Yossi was not here, Ryan O'Reilly would be the captain.
Yes.
You wouldn't even think twice about it. He would be the captain of the Nashville Predators. And the Predators are a very fortunate franchise to have 2 captains because I think Roman Yossi.
I mean, Steven Stamkos also is.
Steven Stamkos as well.
Just imagine if we didn't trade Ryan McDonough.
Yeah.
I mean.
True. I miss that dude. That takes me back to an episode we did together when you called out that Ryan McDonough might be traded, and then it happened.
Yeah.
Miss that dude. Ryan O'Reilly, let's see how he finishes out the season for the Preds because even if the season's not going where we wanted it to go, I think he's going to keep laying it out there. And he's going to keep playing hard. Luke Evangelista returning from injury.
Oh, yeah, true. He's also one of those guys you don't watch.
So I want to see how he bounces back. So those are probably my top players right there that I'm really going to be watching. And then, of course, a player to be determined. I'm sure there's going to be at least one player that's added to this team through some type of trade who's probably a younger player, probably someone not proven, that we're going to get out of whatever trades we make at the deadline, and they might be put into the lineup. So we'll have to stay tuned for that as well.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so the Preds got a pretty tough gauntlet, as we've discussed in previous episodes. They're at home for a few games in a row to come out of the break. But, it's Colorado, it's Florida, it's New Jersey, it's Winnipeg right out of the gate. It's going to be tough. But we'll see what happens. All right, Max, thanks for jumping on board. Thanks, everybody, for jumping in with us tonight for this special edition of the Four Nations Face-Off reaction episode. Finland, Canada, and Sweden, USA tomorrow. Our next episode, we will break down the champions of the Four Nations and all the other good stuff. So until then, thanks for joining us. Hit us up on YouTube, hit subscribe, follow us on Facebook and on X at Catfish Ice. Until then, enjoy your weeks, everybody. This has been Chad Mitten and Max Greenberg on Catfish on Ice.
See you guys.